Hi friends, it's Jenny. I'm here with a quick video about some tips and tricks for running. So whether you are an avid runner or maybe you haven't even started running yet, but it's something that you may want to start, or um, maybe you're just looking for a little bit of advice on different techniques and things that you can try during your run that you may find will make your run more successful. So the first thing I want to talk about, and we're going to break this video up into a few different segments, but the first thing, besides, the basics, you want to have a good running shoe and you want to stay hydrated. Two very important things when you are running. But besides those, there are other things that maybe, a little outside of the box thinking that might help you during your run. So my first thing here is setting a goal. So like anything else, when you attempt something, you have a goal set in mind. So in this can apply to a lot of different exercises, but for running in particular, I like to set a goal of either time or miles. So these are just things that I personally do. Whether I have a specific amount of time, so say I have like 20 minutes or I have a half hour and I just want to get this run done in a certain amount of time. And I don't care how long I run. I just know that I have that amount of time and that's the amount of time I want to spend for that exercise. So that could be my goal, or another goal could be I really want to run this amount of miles. So for me, I would say, okay, I'm out to run 3 miles today, no matter how long it takes me. That's my goal, is to run 3 miles. And obviously your goal will be different for everybody. So time or miles, usually a good start for setting your goal. And then when you reach your goal, so when I first started running, the beginning of quarantine, I hadn't run for a long time. It wasn't something that I made a priority, even though I enjoy it. It wasn't something that I really made a priority for. It was too busy. So in the beginning of quarantine, my goal was I'm going to run a mile. And then I'm going to see what happens, see what my time is, see, how I feel. And then I started running just a little bit more each time. So what you can do is that when you reach your goal, say your goal is a mile or 2 miles or 3 miles, when you reach that goal, ask yourself, why can't I go farther? Right? So this is where kind of the yoga mind comes in, right? I always say to you guys, scan your body from toes to nose, right? So same thing applies here. Scan your body toes to nose and notice where you feel good, right? So notice I'm telling you to find the good there and not to pick out places that you feel bad, right? Because then it just becomes like oh, well, you know, this little thing really doesn't feel that great, so I'm just going to stop here, and you kind of lean on those things as excuses to stop, right? So what I want you to do is find the good. Say, all right, my breath feels good. I've got my breath under control. I'm relaxing my shoulders. I'm not tensing up. My knees feel good. My feet feel good. And along the way, if you do find any of those, areas that are really bothering you, it is okay to stop and walk. Absolutely. But try to find reasons to push yourself just that much farther instead of looking for excuses to stop, right? Because we tend to do that a lot with our exercises. Like, oh, this is too hard. I'm just going to quit. Don't quit. Don't give up. Find a reason to go just that much farther each time, even if it's a tenth of a mile, right? So, like I said, things to look for is your breath control, which we'll talk about later, your shoulder tension. So a lot of times when we start to maybe get tired, our shoulders get tight and they start creeping up toward our ears. Another yogi move here. Relax those shoulders back and down, lock them down, right? Even when we're running, be mindful of that. When the shoulders start to creep up, relax the shoulders. It's going to take out so much tension. It's going to make breathing a little bit easier, right? So also slumped posture, notice how we're running. So a lot of times when you get tired, your body starts to go in front of your legs, so you start to lean forward a little. So try to kind of get your posture back up in line so that your head, heart, pelvis kind of stack on top of each other, and it kind of makes your body move a little more efficiently. And you want to make sure that your joints are happy. So a lot of times in running, it's going to be knee joint pain. And sometimes that's something that I don't want to say you can run through it, but I've had circumstances where at the start of my run, I've noticed like my knee is a little cranky. Probably means I need better shoes or that I need a new pair of shoes. But after I run like the first mile, I'll be like, oh, that knee pain, you know, went away. So sometimes you can kind of run through it, but you also want to be mindful of your body. This is why we stretch, and give yourself that time, especially at the end of your practice, for a really good stretch. And if you can squeeze one in before you run, even better. Today, at the end of this video, I am going to give you guys a post-run stretch that I do at the end of each one of my runs. So there's another thing that you can also ask yourself besides why can't I go farther? Can you slow your pace but keep jogging? So there's a lot of benefits to slowing down your pace just a little bit and still reaching your goal. I mean, that if that's your goal is, I want to run a certain amount of miles or I want to run for this amount of time, you want to try to meet that goal as best you can without having to stop and walk. So the best way that you can do that is maybe just slow your pace a little. I personally have a hard time pacing myself. I want to run and I want to get it done. So for me, pacing has been one of my focuses is I try to pace myself a little bit more so that I don't start off my run running at full speed. I start at a good pace, and then from there I can start to pick up my pace so that I'm not burnt out at the end of my run. But there is one of those things where you can just slow up your jog, run like at the slowest pace you possibly can, and then you can recollect your breath, do that body scan, and then even if you have to stop and walk, because there are going to be days where you're like, I'm not feeling it. There are going to be days where the trail is hot, it's muggy. I've had a couple of those this summer where I'm just like exhausted and I'm like, I'm just going to stop and walk. But you know what I do is I reset my goal when I stop and walk. When you stop to walk, and there's a couple of different things you can do, and I'm going to talk about those later with music in particular, but you can reset your goal for time and miles, right? So I'm going to walk for a minute. I'm going to walk for 2 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever that time is, and then I'm going to start running again, right? Or jogging. Then you can also say, okay, if you've got an Apple Watch, which I always run with my watch so I can kind of monitor myself, you can say, okay, I'm gonna walk for a tenth of a mile, a quarter of a mile, whatever it is. I'm gonna walk and then I'm gonna restart my jog again. I find personally that most of the time, if I have to stop and walk and restart, it's harder than if you just slowed your pace and jogged real slow for a little bit. I don't know what it is. It's probably a mental thing, but for me, if I stop and walk, it's 10 times harder to start that jog up again. But if you set that goal, you tell yourself, I'm starting again, and then if you start again and you have to stop and walk again, fine, but give yourself that second chance to start again, right? Okay, so that is tip number one, is goal setting, right? So what I also want to talk to you about is breathing. So in this next segment of the video, we're going to talk a little bit about breathing. Breathing is such a core portion of yoga. So when I teach yoga, I tell you guys, especially to warm up your body in the beginning, in through the nose, out through the nose, keeps all that warm air inside your body, warms up your muscles. For running, for me, personally, and everybody breathes differently when they run. For me, it is in through the mouth, out through the mouth. I know maybe that's not the greatest technique. A lot of people say in through the nose, out through the mouth. And the reason why you want to especially breathe out through the mouth is to express all that hot air that's building up, and it keeps your body cool while you're running. So every time you breathe out through your mouth, you're expelling that warm air and it's cooling your body. However, when I breathe, I breathe in to and out to. So I'll breathe. So when I'm breathing, it kind of paces me a little bit and gives me a little bit of focus. So when I focus on my breath, it's in 2 breaths, out 2 breaths. I do in through the mouth, out through the mouth. And then after, if I'm really struggling with my breath, I'll take 1 deep inhale through the nose and then a long exhale out the mouth, and then I'll restart my 2 in, 2 out breath. So that's just a little bit of a technique for breathing while you're running. And, breathing is the way that we cultivate peace in the body and the mind, right? So you always want to try to get as much peacefulness going on in your body and your mind while you're running. So just like yoga, we can control our breath and it benefits our movement. So that 2 in, 2 out, it may even sync up with the way that you're running. So if you're running and you're running with your breath, and those steps kind of sync up with your breath. And I find that a lot of times, and it helps me to pace. So really, that's just my technique. And I find that it really helped me when I was just a beginner running. Locating that breath control was the biggest thing that helped me be successful in running. And I am not a long distance runner by any means. I should probably mention that. 3 miles is probably my limit. I ran 5Ks and stuff when I was, years ago, and I haven't done one since I did Wanderlust, which was a yoga and a 5K and a meditation. That was in Boston last year, and that was great. But that was the first 5K I had run in probably 10 years. So it's one of those things where if you keep practicing it, the better it will come. So when you start with the breath, it really hones you in on being mindful in the rest of your body. So the next segment that I want to talk about is the music. So for the music, I use music as a motivator. Some people can run without music. I don't know how they do it. I need music. It's one of those things where if I am going for a run and I forget my earbuds, I'm turning around and I'm getting my earbuds because there's no possible way I'm running without it. It's a huge motivator for me. And if you would like, I can leave a link to my Spotify run list. I'm all over the place, guys. Yesterday I had Roy Orbison in my running playlist. Okay, so this is how I'm literally all over the place. I got Ariana Grande, I got New Kids on the Block, I've got Trivium, I've got Metallica, I've got I'm all over the place, guys, with my running music. And it really all depends on how I'm feeling on the day. So a lot of times I'll keep the same playlist for, a week maybe, and then I'm like, I'm over it. I need something new to listen to, right? And for me, It's also like a chance for me to listen to my music. I don't get to listen to my music a lot, you know, maybe when I'm in the car, but I'm never in the car for very long. We're in Rhode Island. It's like a 5-minute drive everywhere. So it's kind of a chance for me to like get into my music, right? So, and another thing with music is you can use it to push you through the tough moments of your run. So for me personally, I'll look at like the 2 mile mark, and that's usually when I start to look at my watch and say, okay, where am I? How much longer do I have to do this? How much longer is it until I completed my goal, right? So I know that at the 2 mile mark, I am going to need a song that is going to drive me through to my goal. So I know in that particular spot, I'm going to put in, maybe it's a new song that I'm adding, that I'm like, oh yeah, I can't wait to listen to that song. Or maybe it's got like a higher beats per minute, right? Maybe it's a little faster, or maybe it's going to, you know, maybe it's like an old school song that I haven't heard in a while. And I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this song, right? So um, pick your, you know, pick your spot wherever you want it to be. I know that I need, you know, a song in the beginning. Usually I try to put a slower paced song in the beginning. And you know why? Is because I have trouble pacing myself right off the bat. So the music is going to be a little bit slower. So I'm not going to be tempted to run right away. I'm going to be, you know, okay, I'm just going to set up my pace, right? And then from there, maybe like 2 or 3 songs in, then I'm like, okay, now I can go. Now I've got my pace down. And then, like I said, 2 mile marker, and then right at the very end, I try to pick a song at the very end. And for me too, I connect to the lyrics a lot. So a lot of the songs that I put in there are about being confident, you know, being a winner, you know, something like that, that's like, yeah, you know, that's going to be motivational to you in the lyrics as well. So I like to pick a song at the end as well that's going to push me all the way to the end, because you know, like the last, you know, 2 or 3 minutes song is going to be the last little bit you need to push you through to the end and really meet your goal. So that's really what I like to use music for, is motivation. Now, another way you could use your music is to reset your goal. So we talked a little bit about resetting your goal and when you stop to walk, right? So when you stop to walk, you can say, okay, I'm going to stop and walk till the end of this song, or I'm going to stop and walk for one whole song, and then I'm going to start up the next song, right? You can also use it as a motivator to keep going, right? So you've met your goal and you're going to say, I'm going to run for one more song. I can do anything for one song, right? So those are another way you can use your music. I know I do that a lot. You know, I'll say, okay, I'm going to stop and walk, but I'm only going to walk, you know, till the end of the song, and then I'm going to pick back up again in the next song. Or, you know, I'm running and all of a sudden a really good song comes on and I felt like stopping, but now I'm like, oh no, I got to run through this song. So there's a lot of ways that music can get you through and help you to kind of reset your goal as well. So another thing, the last little bit I want to talk about for this video is mindfulness in our running. So there's really no right or wrong way when it comes to mindfulness, because whether you're completely distracted or whether you're totally focused, sometimes they can work to your advantage either way. So there'll be times where I'm on a run and a song will come on, and all of a sudden I'll start making up bar choreography in my head, and it'll just go on, and I'll be like, oh yeah, this song will be good for this. We can do a plie here, we can do this squat here, and before I know it, I've run like a quarter mile to a half mile, and I've made up new bar choreography in my head, and it's totally distracted me, totally disconnected me from my run. But but it's something that, distracted me for that half mile. And, who am I to fault it? If it's going to distract me and get me through, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, right? But you also don't want to be so distracted that you're disconnecting from your body, right? We always talk about mind-body connection, right? So you don't want to lose control of your breath. You don't want to be so disconnected that, your joints are hurting and you're not thinking about it and now you've hurt yourself. You don't want to be that distracted. But nothing wrong with a little distraction in your head. Trying to keep it positive, right? Trying to keep that distraction thinking positive. But other than that, there can also be times where you're laser focused and you're honed in on your breath. I find that, anytime that I get distracted like that, so say I just did like all this bar choreography in my head for like a quarter mile, and then I'm like, whoa, snap out of it, and then I immediately bring it back to my breath. Am I breathing? How is my breath? Can I catch up my breath? How's my pace? And you do that toes to nose scan real quick if you find yourself getting really distracted. So always important to bring it back to your body connection, to your mind. Try to keep them, level with each other. Even if you do get a little distracted, it's all good. Sometimes it can be a welcome distraction. But if ever you find your mind wandering to things that, aren't positive, a negative experience, maybe that's the whole reason you're going on your run, because you're frustrated and, you know, you got your kids at home and you're trying to homeschool, or your husband's home doing work and you can't get any space of your own. Does this sound like I'm talking from personal experience? I'm sorry. Well, maybe that's the whole reason you're going on your run. It's just like, I need to get out of here, right? But you want to leave all that behind you, right? And then you don't want to be harping on that while you run, right? So set a positive intention. If that's what's going to help you on your run, that's what we do at the start of every yoga class. Set that positive intention, right? Set something positive for your run. And when your mind starts going back to that, that negative distraction, bring it back to your positive intention and say, I am healthy. I am loved. I am strong. I am fit. I am, I am whatever you want to be in that moment. That's who you are. That's what you are. You attach your I am to something positive and you repeat it to yourself, right? Even if it's just for that 1 mile run, half mile run, whatever you're doing, whatever your goal is, you're repeating that mantra to yourself and putting it out into the universe, and it will be true, right? So now that we've talked about all our kind of tips and tricks points, I'm going to put a little video at the end here of a post-run stretch. So this post-run stretch is something that I do after every single one of my runs. You do not need any equipment to do these stretches after your run, so you can do them immediately when you're done, right at the park or right in your living room or wherever you are. If you're running on a treadmill, if you're running outside, all these tips and tricks still apply. So you can use these stretches at the end of your run to make sure that you're stretching out all of your leg muscles and those hard working muscles that you've just worked out during your run. So enjoy this next little segment of our post-run yoga. Hi guys, I'm here with your post-run stretch. This is a stretch that I do after each one of my runs. So you can feel free to do all of these stretches if you have the time, and that would be great. If not, then you can pick and choose which ones that feel good in the moment after your run. So what I usually start with is a flat back fold over. So where I run, I usually end where there's a picnic table. If there is no picnic table, you could use a tree. If you're running at home on a treadmill, you could use the back of your couch or the back of a chair. I'm going to demonstrate on a chair today. So you put two hands on your chair or your table. You step away from your object and just lean forward. Kind of opens up the front body, and you can release your head. And just a little warning that if you struggle with vertigo, that this may not be your cup of tea. So feel free to eliminate this stretch right off the bat. But if you can, kind of let your head go. And then what I do is I take a little twist. So we take right hand to left leg, and it can be up on the thigh, or it can be farther down by the calf. And then we try to take a peek underneath our underarm. And you can hold these stretches for as long as feels comfortable. Take it back up to center and switch sides. Getting that nice stretch through the low back, kind of play with pulling the hips back and really getting into that stretch. And then when you're ready, release the hands towards the floor, release the head, maybe hold opposite elbows, taking a nice forward fold here, recollecting the breath. And you can release the hands and slowly roll all the way back up to standing. And then once we're here, we're going to take a little side lunge stretch. So we step out wide and then put a bend into our knee so that the knee is behind the toes. So we're sinking that weight into the heel and we're lengthening out our inner thigh and the other leg. So we can stay right here if this is enough. If we want a little more out of the stretch, turn the toes so that you're on the heel and the toes face the sky. You're going to just get a little deeper into that stretch. And if you're listening to music at the end of your run, then you can always just hold these stretches maybe for the length of the chorus or hold it for the length of the verse. It's usually a 16 count, or you can hold it for 8 breaths or whatever works for you, really. And then just switch sides. And trying to stretch out evenly on each side. So however many breaths you take on one side, take on the other. Really just kind of cultivating that breath control here at the end, slowing down our heart rate. And our bodies are nice and warm, so feel free to really get into the meat of those stretches, right? So after that, we're going to turn and pivot into some high lunge. So in high lunge, again, knee behind the toes. We want a generous bend in that back knee. We're on the ball of our foot in the back. Now notice our pelvis here. We might tend to overarch the back and lean forward a little. We want to scoop the pelvis forward, tuck the tailbone underneath us. We're really going to feel the opening up in that hip, and that's where our stretch lies. Relax the shoulders. Stay here again as long as feels good, and then hop that back foot in. Plant both feet for a pyramid stretch. Hinging at the top of the legs, we're going to hinge forward. Hands can rest on the thigh, or they might travel down to the shin as we get a little deeper into the stretch, just softening the chest forward and down. And then when we're ready, walk those hands back up, and we're going to take it to the other side. Switching over into that high lunge, finding our balance point so that we're on the ball of our foot, bending into that knee, tilting the pelvis underneath us. Relax the shoulders. Now, if you're feeling any tension in the upper body here, you could always give yourself some arm stretches. No harm in that. Give yourself a quick shoulder stretch. Maybe a little tricep stretch, send the elbow up. Really, whatever feels good here. You can kind of get those bonus stretches in, top and bottom. And then hop that back foot in, folding, trying to keep head, neck, and spine in line. And we might notice that each side feels a little bit different. That's totally normal. Breathing into those stretches. And if you're familiar with pyramid,
and you want a bonus stretch here. You could release the hands behind you, clasp the fingers together, squeeze the shoulder blades, press the knuckles away as we fold forward. Gives you a nice chest opener here, and we get that hamstring stretch as well. And then when you've had enough, release, hands walk all the way back up center, and we'll come back forward. So a couple balance challenges right here at the end. So again, if you're near a picnic table or a chair or a tree, feel free to use those in the balance, because really we just want the stretch here. So we're gonna cross the ankle over the thigh, and we're gonna sit back into the heel. So we're really shifting our weight into the heel of that standing foot. We wanna flex our foot that's crossed over so that the toes are coming towards the shin and the knee is butterflying away. That's going to give us that stretch that we're looking for right through our glute, stretches right up into our low back. So again, you can give ourselves that balance challenge if we want to do hands free, or give yourself that support if you want it and really enjoy the stretch. And then once you got enough, another balance challenge. If we can make this transition without letting that foot touch the ground, wrap it behind and catch the foot behind you. A little quad stretch. So again, notice here, I'm going to turn sideways. Notice if you tend to bend a little forward, arch that low back. Tilt the pelvis so that it's right underneath us, and you're going to get that stretch a little deeper. Head, heart, pelvis, all in one line. And then we'll release that side, and we'll take it to the other side. Quick shake out, cross our ankle over the thigh, sit it back. And again, especially in our balance, we might notice that one side is different than the other. That is natural. No awards being given for the best balance here at the end of our run, especially if our legs are tired. So give yourself that permission to grab hold. And then again, that balance challenge, if we want it, stand tall and try to catch that foot right behind for that quad stretch. And we can use this as the last stretch of our little post-run yoga. Or what I've been incorporating here is a little calf stretch. So this is something that you're really going to need something stable, like a wall, or I use the back of a park bench that's kind of been grounded into the earth, so it's not going to move on me. But you want something that's really sturdy. So for this calf stretch, I'm going to demonstrate on the wall. So we're going to take the heel and turn the toes up. I don't know if you can see me. Hopefully you can. So the toes are up towards the sky, and you just want to lean in a little. So you can come onto the ball of the foot in the back and kind of lean in towards the wall or towards that park bench, whatever it is that you're using. And then switch sides. And you could use a chair here to put your heel down and your toe up. With this, I'm not going to get as much of a stretch because I'm on a little bit of an angle. But you can kind of lean forward just until you feel that stretch right on the calf. And release. So those are my post-run stretches that I do after every run. So hopefully you find them helpful. You can pick and choose which ones you like, which ones you want to hold longer than others. Every body is different, but those are the ones that are really going to target the hard-working muscles of your body while you're running. So let me know in the comments what you guys think of the stretches, and if the tips and tricks helped you, or if you have any other questions that you maybe want me to answer, and I can answer them right down in the comments. I'm going to leave a link to my Spotify Run playlist so that you can take a peek and maybe pick and choose some songs that you hadn't thought of before to add to your run playlist. and I will hopefully see you guys again soon. Check out the parts 1 and 2 of the Yoga for Runners series, and I will have part 3 coming out soon. All right, see you guys next time and have a great run.